How's it going, guys? Jake from Boatman UK here. Now in today's video I'm going to be going through and showing you how to change the batteries in your Boatman Vulcan mini bait boat. Now the batteries in this bait boat, as most of you probably already know, are internal, aka you can't easily change them. So one piece of advice with this is make sure you follow these instructions quite clearly, make sure that you seal the boat back up correctly. Now this isn't necessarily a hard job to do, there's very limited tools needed and it actually only takes a couple of minutes to do this, but you have to be quite careful and quite thorough, making sure that you put everything back in place as it was to ensure that the boat remains watertight as it originally was, because of course if you do this wrong you can of course get water in the boat, and at which point if you have tampered with this and you've put it back together wrong, may well affect your warranty in the long term. But if you do require a spare set of batteries, they can be changed, and it is something that you can do bankside as well with some pretty simple tools. So let's take a closer look at this boat and let's show you how to change these batteries. So here we have our Vulcan Mini, and the top handle is actually what retains these batteries in place. You have 4 rubber bungs either side, so you've got 2 here and 2 just on the inside just here, and the exact same on the other side as well. 2 rubber bungs on the outside, 2 rubber bungs on the inside. So first thing you're going to need to do, by using a small flat bladed screwdriver, or even better if you have one of these, a little pick like this, is to pick out the rubber bungs. Now these rubber bungs don't actually really do too much, they're just to actually cover the head of the screws. So now that I've removed these 2 outer ones, for example, very carefully just to make sure I don't puncture them, you will now see 2 of the screw heads just there. And what we're doing by removing these little rubber caps, or these little rubber bungs, is just to access the screw heads so we can then look at removing this top handle. So we've done 3 out of the 4, so we now have done all 4 on this side, and all I'm going to do now is just repeat the exact same on this side. Okay, so that's all 8 rubber bungs now removed in total. Now when you put them back on, it doesn't matter which way around they go in terms of order, because they're all the same thing. And hopefully, as you can see at this angle, we now have 4 screws either side that we now need to remove this top handle. These are a crosshead or a Phillips head screw. Make sure you've got a screwdriver that fits these very well so you don't round off any of the heads. I'm doing the easy way and I'm using a little machine one here. So let's quickly whip these 4 screws out either side. Now the screws are not tight in particular, they're nipped up, so you shouldn't really round them off as long as you have a good fitting screwdriver. Now that we have all 8 screws loosened and removed, we can actually pull this cover up. I've left the screws in place just to make sure I don't misplace any of them, so we've got all 8 screws left in the handle, which I'm just going to place to the side. Now we're very close to accessing the batteries. There is 1 more or 2 more final pieces you need to remove to be able to access them, and this is the most important part that will affect the waterproofing capability of this boat. Now these are 2 little waterproof seal covers. There is 6 screws either side, so 12 screws in total. Again, very simple, a case of making sure that you unscrew them with a correct fitting screwdriver, but most importantly, make sure you keep these as to either side that they go back on, just to make sure that everything goes back together exactly as it was put together originally. And that way you're just going to ensure that the boat remains watertight at all times and not put yourself at any risk. So again, just remove these 6 screws. And then repeat for the other side. Okay, now all 12 screws in total are now loose, so I'm just going to quickly collect those up. Now the screws, again, very similar to the rubber bungs. It doesn't matter in which order they go. These are just screws. They all do the same thing. Now these seals are quite tight. They're a tight fit. So it's a plastic cover with a rubber compound seal that basically compresses. And as you relieve it, it will obviously undo the seal. So it's going to be quite a tight fit. Now you can use very carefully a flat bladed screwdriver in one of the screw holes, for example. There is also a little anchorage point here that you can use. Again, I'm going to use my little pick here and very carefully into one of the screw holes. I'm just going to work my way. And I'm now going to use this access hole now that that's started to come away. And as you can see, it prizes up. Just go steady with this. Don't rush the job. Make sure you don't break this part. And you will see here is our plastic cover, and that is our rubber seal. Now, I'm going to make sure that I place this side of the boat, just so I know that's the way it came off. And I'm going to do the same again this side. Just carefully lever it up. Make sure the rubber seal comes off with this, and make sure when it goes back on, which I'll show in a second, that it's pushed all the way on. If it stays on the boat, just remove it, just so you know where it is, just in case you put it back on without the seal or anything like that. And again, this side, I'm going to place this side so I know exactly which side it goes. Your two batteries are now located, as you can see, just in here, and there is a small little section at the top that you can use, again, something like a little hook like this to grab around and just simply pull up. They're quite easy to pull out, they're not too tight. And that is your Vulcan mini battery. There are two of these in total. You will see there's a little connector on the underside here that you do not need to worry about. That doesn't actually get used on this particular model, so you can ignore this wire, and they simply actually engage. You'll see on the inside of the boat, just here, hopefully on the camera, there is a corresponding XT60 connector that it plugs into. Really nice and easy quick release. And again, I'll just do the same for this side. So using my hook to hook underneath and pull up and out. Really simple. Same again, and as you can see just at the top here, this is the little section that I'm using to lever and hook against. Now these batteries are not directional, so it doesn't matter if you get them mixed up or anything like that. They are just simply batteries. They will only connect one way, so generally speaking, by rule of thumb, I'm just going to remove a brand new battery from the bag here. So now that I've removed that from the bag, you'll see the battery here, the label or the printing on the battery always goes on the outside of the boat. You can't get the connectors around the wrong way. It's physically impossible. And again, the batteries are not sided. It doesn't matter which way around they go in. They will only go in one way. Again, if we just fit this new battery, if I just remove this section. Now, if I go ahead and fit this new battery, all we do is we just slide it into place and then just push down all the way until you physically can't move it anymore. Really, really simple, genuinely dead easy to do. And again, I'm just going to remove this battery so I can put the original batteries back in the boat. So here we are back with the original batteries, and I'll just repeat that again. They slide down so far, and just with your thumbs, just push them the last little bit. Really, really simple. And I'm going to do the same again this side. You can't really go wrong. The only thing that can get in the way a little bit is this little connector at the bottom, which, as I say, isn't used on this model. So just make sure that's pushed out the way. Make sure it's not over like this, trying to block the connector, for example. You can just leave him like that, and that'll do the job absolutely fine. So theoretically, we've now replaced our batteries. The next step is to build it all back together. It's basically a reverse of what we've just taken apart. Again, the most integral part, the most important part to this to make sure your boat remains watertight is these covers here, these little pieces here. Again, make sure that you're matching them back up the same side. Make sure that the actual little tab part, this little circular part that helps to remove it, is facing towards the front of the boat. You can technically fit it this way, but that is not as it comes from factory. And in my opinion, same as anything, always return it back the way it originally was. So all we're going to do is just get that back on there and push it down nice and tight. And then we'll get our screws back in place. And once we tighten these screws down, this will fully sandwich the seal, and it should ensure a full watertight seal as it was originally. Now, with these screws, make sure you don't go too crazy tight. Just a nip up is plenty. You can run risk of over tightening things. These are only small screws. So for example, I know I'm not using a traditional screwdriver, I'm using this, but all I'm going to do is literally just nip them down. Another piece of advice some of you may already know with screws, always go opposite to opposite. So I've just done my top left, now I'm doing my bottom right. Now I'm going to do my top right, my bottom left, and then the two middle ones. This just makes sure basically that what you're tightening down is going on evenly, and it's applying an even amount of pressure across the board. Now you'll see these screws, again, this thing isn't mega powerful anyway, but you'll see that's plenty tight enough. Literally what I've just done there is more than tight enough. That's absolutely fine. And I'm just going to repeat the exact same procedure for this side too. So that's our watertight covers fully sealed back in place. I'm happy with that. Everything's looking correct. I can't see any lipping of the seals, and everything's gone back in lovely as it should do. Now we have our handle here. Now again, this handle will actually only go on one way, but just to confirm, the Boatman etching that's in the handle here always faces forward towards the front of the boat, so it goes on this way. And like I said at the beginning, I left my screws in place for this, and I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to tighten this side, and then I'm going to move over to the other side, and I'm going to tighten the top right and work my way across like this. Again, just applying an even load. Now this side you can't really mess up too bad, to be honest. I just like to try and be as thorough as I can, just to ensure that you guys get an exact experience of what I would do in this sort of situation. That's our screws for our handle thoroughly tightened. And if you pick the boat up, make sure you've got no play, make sure all the screws are nice and nipped up. And lastly, just to finish off the job, is these rubber little bungs here that go over the top of the screw head. To be honest with you, I don't think these are essential. I think they're more of a decorative piece to make it look a bit prettier. But look, like I said earlier on, it's always nice to put things back together as it came apart. So well worth putting back on. They have a very, very small amount of adhesive or glue on them, which, to be honest with you, still remains pretty tacky now. These ones that are a little bit deeper in, I'm going to use my little pick just to try and push them back into place on top of the screw heads. Now, you might find as these come out, some of them might not be absolutely perfect. And like I say, don't fret or worry too much about this part. If you choose that you don't want to put them back on, that is completely up to you. This will not affect your boat being watertight. It is purely, as I say, in my opinion, to make it look pretty, because at the end of the day, these little rubber covers aren't going to prevent water from getting in past a screw head, for example. And that's exactly what your internal waterproof covers are there for. So I'm just going to put these all back into place. Now, they don't look perfect, so I'm just quickly rushing this to do a video and just to display and demonstrate to you guys. But it gives you a rough indicator, an idea of how they should go back in. And give or take, they're back in, and that is the job done. So it's actually not too bad to replace the batteries on these at all. Now, I know for some of you, the Vulcan mini batteries are a bit of a game changer, and for others, they're not a massive fan of it. They like to be able to easily access a battery. But I hope this just displays and demonstrates just how easy it actually is to change the batteries on this boat. Now, they've gone for this design because of how compact this thing is. Obviously, the internal system is a little bit more tight with space, which is ideal for this particular model of boat. And again, I hope this just displays that it really isn't too bad. It's not too intimidating to change your batteries. Just make sure that you're fitting or using the correct fitting screwdriver. Make sure you don't rush the job. Make sure you do it in a dry area, in a dry place. Of course, doing it out on the bank in the rain is going to introduce water into the boat. Most importantly, just make sure that you put everything back together the way that it came apart. And that way you're going to guarantee that you're not going to get any water in the boat, and you're going to still keep those waterproof capabilities that this boat has from factory. So again, I hope this video helps. If you've got any further questions or anything else you'd like to see on the Vulcan Mini or any of our other bait boats, for a matter of fact, feel free to ask below, and I'll try and help and try and upload those when I can. Thank you for watching. Take care.